Okay. Okay, well, welcome everyone to this FIDI Focus Fringe session on digitalisation, AI in the industry, and just where we're going as moving and relocation on that front. We're going to have at least one question, so there will be a little bit of audience participation, but it's mainly me in conversation with Carlos Ferri from Shipeezi. Welcome, Carlos.
Thank you.
So, can everyone hear me okay to start off with?
Yes.
Yeah, good. Okay, well, if the volume drops, just give us a shout. So I'm going to start off with a statistic we've put in FIDI Focus a few times over the last couple of years, and that is related to a survey that FIDI did of affiliates that showed that fewer than around 50% are non-digital ready. And this is with the new iteration of FAME in mind. So in 2026, everyone is going to be expected to be equipped to do digital audits. So we're quite some way away from that. So with that in mind, Carlos, could you tell me, as an industry, where are we from a digitalisation point of view?
Thanks, Don. I think that's it's an interesting question. So we've done a survey with FIDI exactly to understand that within FIDI 50%. So we thought, is the industry overall above or below that? And what we found was within the FIDI members of 50%, and overall in the industry, we're still almost 80% non-digital. And by non-digital, I'm not talking about using emails and phone calls. So I want to take you guys a step back and understand that when we start doing business, and here I'm talking about a few companies probably 50, 60 years old, so you wouldn't actually send anything to them. You would most likely send, you would call them and say, hey, by the way, I've got this, let's do this, and I've got all these papers and all that, and so on. And then the email came about, and it's like, hey, by the way, now I'm just sending you everything here, but I still have all the papers and everything as a trail there. And then someone created what? The websites. And you go, hey, by the way, my services now, I don't even need to bring paper. I've got all of that available on my website. And some of them were super ugly and static and all that, but still informing everything. And now we're almost going to that next leap of change, which is interaction data in between. So it's not anymore just, I want to tell you something, but I still have to keep everything here. So when people are saying digital, we're not talking about if you guys using emails or not. We're talking about that next step of interaction that happens every single day, multiple times within a move from the moment that you got the customer all the way then when the customer almost answered your survey and said, yeah, I had a good experience. So that entire journey has to be somehow digital, and that's what we're talking about. So it's quite alarming. It's quite, and we will talk probably a little bit more about this, but I think everybody here has to understand one simple thing. No one wants to digitalize the moving companies because somebody else will make money. Let's start from that point. We need to digitalize the industry because we're a legacy type of industry, meaning people are building the companies here for a long time. Do we want an Amazon to come in and disrupt everything and take that away? They will. Trust me. If they see that there is money in, they will do that. If we are all prepared as an industry and we digitalize, then we are almost playing in the same field. Doesn't matter how big or how small you are. We're in the same field. And that's what we're actually looking for. Digitalization to give you guys power to be prepared for what comes next, which we don't know yet. That was, as I said, it was from the phone call all the way to the email websites, what's next? And that's what we are really worried about.
Yeah, thank you. So that's quite a compelling case then for digitalising your business. I mean, so what are the obstacles? What are the challenges to people actually doing that? And I think it's probably worth putting that question to the audience. What are the main challenges to people moving from analogue to digital? Can anyone, you're all at various different stages of the journey, I'm sure. Change. You mean sort of reluctance to
within the business, cultures within the businesses, people's acceptance that actually might make their life a bit easier.
Yeah.
Also within that though, there's a natural tendency to distrust it because they think they might be replacing them as well, which is certainly something that we've seen as an obstacle, is that we've got the ideas and we've actually created some of the platforms, but people's willingness to accept the change has been quite a big challenge.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of that. That's a great answer. Any more? Cost. Yeah.
True.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. I mean, we've had some big sort of applications and big sort of proprietary projects that have been introduced in the industry over the last few years, and yeah, I mean, they're always very large, expensive projects, aren't they? So,
and I think what Daniel just said now, and sorry, I forgot your name, Catherine. They are actually two aspects we found through the survey as well. One is the change, and another one is the cost. So I'll talk about the change a little bit. And if we step back again a bit, it's already hard enough to get people into the industry today. Why? Because we're not sexy. We're not a place where people think that no one wants to start as an offsider, go to a driving, go into operations, and then I'm gonna become a sales manager, and then we don't have that as probably well as in the banking industry or whatever, other industries right there. But you're 100% right. The way we have been doing for so long, it's almost like, hey, now we've got this and you got to use it. Let's do it. But they're like, oh, I'm not going to do this. That's going to replace my job. But that's because we're telling them, or in fact, we're not telling them why we're actually doing that. And as an industry, we're not talking about individual companies here right now. So we have so many customers in so different countries. And if I tell you guys the things that sometimes we hear through our support, that people are asking the questions, it's as simple as, how do I actually put the app into my phone? That's that level that we're talking about, right? But when then we go about cost, then the companies are like, oh my gosh, now I have to input more costs on top of that. And that becomes actually the two main challenges that the companies are like, you know what, let's just keep doing emails for a little longer. And I was talking to someone who said that the father is still almost not involved anymore in the business, but still there. And he goes on Sundays to their office to actually have a look on the files. And for that reason, they haven't yet stopped printing all the files. And I'm not talking about only files, important forms and all that. He asks the move coordinators to print emails, communication with the customer, and put in the folder.
That's an extreme version of an analog mover, isn't it? Yeah.
But you know what? It goes back to what Daniel said. That's the founder's fear that he will lose control of his business if he can't see or touch that information that's coming across.
Mm. So what's the solution? Broadly speaking, what's the solution?
I think we have to start talk about digitalization as if we don't talk, we're gonna die. It's almost as that. So there is a lot of conversation about standardization. Hang on, wait a second. How can we standardize something if 80% of the industry is not digital yet? It's almost like I am a tire maker here and I'm building these beautiful tires for trucks. But the tires I'm building, the trucks doesn't exist yet. That's exactly what we're talking about. So if we don't start talking about digitalization as if there is no way back, we're never going to be able to actually give that founder or that employee or that group of people the assurance that what we're actually doing with digitalization, it's making their lives easier. So when we implemented in one company in India, the software was already working in like 31 countries, and then we went to India. I mean, it was already working, so we didn't need to worry too much about it. We just had to train people. And so we put the software on for available, and we training and the whole thing as we did. And then we start getting people on our help center saying, hey, this is not working, this is not working, this is not working, this is not working. So as a software provider, we could have thought, well, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. The company's not training you enough. That's exactly what happens. A lot of people, they just push down and say, you don't know what you're doing. So we don't have that approach. We've done the other way around. We say, okay, tell me exactly what you're doing, how you're doing, what are you using to do it? And we found out that in India, they have some devices running Android. They can't even pronounce the name of the brand. I'm not talking about Samsung, Apples and stuff. I'm talking about devices that are so completely produced by someone in India that we had absolutely zero idea. And what we found out, these guys were using a version of Android that was so old, not even supported by Google anymore. That's the reason why the app was crashing, because we didn't test about it. And we didn't think that we needed it, because we thought everybody was going to use new devices.
Okay.
So for us to help them on the digitalization journey, we had to go down to that point to understand what's the reality of the movers in India and the people that they are getting to do the job. Before we even could talk about, no, don't even print anything. And that's what I think the solution is to begin with.
Yeah.
Talk.
Yeah, because presumably if we're dealing with a supply chain in India and one in the States, or so, there's a lot of difference in the way people operate.
Yeah.
So what do we do about this?
We pretty much have to bring everybody to the table and again talk about how we can fix that problem. So if, for example, in FIDI we have multiple sessions, and now we've got the FIDI magazine, and we've got everything. We got to talk about it, how we can talk about that, how we can bring these people to the journey. So for example, we say, or I heard already a lot of companies saying, oh, this is not going to work for me because the guys I use at the the truck drivers, and they just not, and I'm sorry to say that, but some people even say, oh, they're not too smart. You guys wrong. They are very smart. The problem is they don't see that what you're doing is helping them. They see that what you asking them to do is helping you. How do we do that? We turn around. These guys are using Facebook and Instagram all the time. So you make it simpler and easier to say, hey, you know what? I might actually help you. We're going to do a training once a month, and you guys will come in and then we'll do this. Yes, of course you're going to be, I guess, teaching them or talking about how you pack better, how you avoid actually claims and stuff like this. But for example, through technology, you can actually do what we call the mechanical and electrical checklist, which is simply turning something on before you pack. And then when you deliver a destination, or you or your agent, they turn it on and see if it works. How many claims did you guys pay because the customer said the TV was working before the move? See? That's how you digitalize. You ask the problems you guys having, and the technology has to be the way you fix them. So now you come back to your team and say, guys, I know that I came here and I yell at you guys how many claims we had on that. So now what we're going to do is every time you have an item, you just turn it on and off, go into the system here, you click this button and say that you've tested it. And if the customer says, no, I don't want you to do that, there is no problems. You do that, but the customer signature is there. At destination, if they say it wasn't working, well, you didn't authorize us to turn it on, so it's not claimable. Boom. All that claim, and what you're not paying, in fact, is savings because you digitalize a small, simple process of the work that the boys and the girls are already doing on the road. That's how you fix it. You don't bring these big sort of like words into the conversation, because it has to be a benefit for them, not for you. You're getting the benefit. The companies are getting the benefit. But you got to talk to them as if they were like, see, I'm not going to blame you on this anymore, because now I can have the information without asking to do much more than that.
Okay. Carlos, thank you for that. I'm going to ask you about...
May I add something? As a FAME certified company, we are all driven by processes and work procedures. So I believe if we change our processes and work procedures at all levels of the organization, it's also a good way to make it more easier to implement technology.
Exactly, and you can actually get some of your process and procedures within the piece of technology you have. And so when as they're walking, it's almost like you counting how many steps they're doing without asking, how many steps did you do yesterday? You don't need to. You just put your processes in there and let the technology bring that information. Because now it also, and now that's the beautiful, perfect benefit what the digitalization will bring to the companies. Now you're making decisions based on data. You're not making decisions based on the feeling of your operations manager. You're not making the decision to build another warehouse in a place that might actually be the wrong spot. Or buy another truck just because everybody keeps complaining that you don't have enough when it's summertime, and then you gotta have another truck. And the worst of all, your warehouse, it's 70% full, but you think that you need to buy more containers and home packs and leaf vans and stuff because people come back to you and say, oh, we don't have enough space, we're gonna be running out of space, we're gonna be running this. No, now the technology is telling you, what's your capacity look like? How much do you actually have in that? How much is that really making you? So then now your decisions can be made more based on data. And the benefits for your users, for your employees, is that they are helping you on that journey. That's where it becomes sexy. Because these people they want to be challenged, but they just want to be challenged at their level.
Okay.
That's the thing.
Okay. Lovely. Thank you for that, Carlos. So, AI, artificial intelligence, what part is this going to play in the future for movers?
It's an interesting question. And it is interesting because we need to understand what the expression means. It's intelligence. If we understand that intelligence just exists if there is enough correct data, then it becomes really intelligent data. Mm-hmm. So artificial, it means somebody else without a heart is going to be processing that probably much faster than anybody else with a heart. So really, let's bring it down and forget about all the piece of technology that's involved on that. Why artificial intelligence will change the industry? What do you guys think? What's your opinion at your level? What is artificial intelligence means to you today, based on what you know, not based on what people keep saying right there? Give me one or two. Let's start from there.
Automate the estimation.
You can automate the estimation. What else?
You can automate the communication responses.
Communication response. What else? Another one?
Add information over automation.
Correct.
Automating.
And let me tell you this, how we don't need artificial intelligence for that. All of that, it's only called automation, and that exists a long time. Okay, supply chain is doing this when they're producing goods over and over again. So that's exactly the point. Artificial intelligence will not change anything because we're still not producing enough good data. And what actually really artificial intelligence should be doing for us, it's all these calculations and all this thinking behind the scenes that if you're not involved, you still be able to have a response. So for example, I'll get what Anthony just said right now, right? So I wanna make a decision. So for example, how many routes of shipments you have from Hawaii to Singapore?
Maybe a couple dozen a year.
Correct. Did they stop anywhere else in the middle of the way to do anything else? The vessels most likely will stop a couple of times. And what about if you now start making decisions to say, how many more actually routes I have between Hawaii and a few of those that I stopped during the way? And maybe the volumes that I have, if I do a partnership, and all these questions that you start coming up to say, can I make a little bit of money on the way because I'm already taking stuff from here to Singapore? That's where AI is going to be applied. Because all that information that's coming through, we are incapable with the day-to-day we have, with the, enough tools that we have today to do on our own. And that's where artificial intelligence should be applied.
Okay.
Artificial intelligence should be a replacement for people. It's wrong. Mm-hmm. Artificial intelligence is still being a tool. How many of you guys have trucks that are electric today? 2 people in the room.
We don't have electric trucks, but we have electric vans.
Electric vans, let's call fleet, right? So now look at this. How many vehicles you guys have that's actually automatic? Not electric, but automatic, the gear. Do you understand here? That's what artificial intelligence is going to do. It's an evolution of what we are and what we're doing right now. Automation, simple and easy, no issues. But when you ask me now, for example, where artificial intelligence can be used, what about if I tell you that when you do a video survey with your customer or you're talking on the phone with your customer, by pressing a button, I can actually ask AI to compare to a model, which I'll get into a minute what a model is in artificial intelligence. And the model will tell you what's the sentiment of your customer through that call to go and close that deal with you or not. And ask you the simple question, would you like me to generate 3 emails based on this sentiment to send it to the customer? Do you understand here? It's an evolution. Sending automatic emails, it's already past. That's not what artificial intelligence is for. But now you're getting the sentiment and asking the machine to say, hey, can you create those emails? Now you ask me, how many more quotes will be able to do, and how much do you think you're going to close above what you're doing right now? Because you don't have the time to see, no, I think the customer really feels that if I do a price sensitive here, he will close. It's your feeling. But what about when you've got 10 people selling for you? And that's where it comes to me as standardization. So when you apply artificial intelligence, you can have certain standards, and that's what a model is. A model in artificial intelligence, nothing else more than some data that I train the artificial intelligence to think like that, almost like an agent. I want to create an agent that can sell international moves. It's completely different than an agent that sells domestic moves. Am I right? Or do you think that one person can do both? Can they or not?
Yeah.
Can they?
Yeah.
And they are very good. Here we go, sometimes. We are not the business of guessing anymore. That's the point. Because if we keep guessing, Amazon will come and say, you know what? I'm not going to guess. And I'm going to use everything I've got in my favor to actually automate this process and use artificial intelligence to increase the likelihood of these people signing with me. And you know what? People will sign. People will sign. They will forget the 60 years that you guys been doing business, and they will sign up with Amazon just because of that. Because they are using artificial intelligence to do that. That's where I like the artificial intelligence to be playing a role.
So are we going to see a situation with AI where it can replace humans doing, you know, what you might call mundane work or data entry jobs, and will reduce the moving and relocation industry's need for a certain proportion of its workforce, which may solve a problem in certain regions?
I think that's exactly the point. If we apply artificial intelligence the right way, we're actually going to become sexy. And people will want to come and work for us.
Okay.
That's how I see it. Yes, why do I need to get somebody else that check emails when customers are complaining or something? Why do I need to get somebody else to go into the shipping line website and check where the container is to be able to email someone to tell? Why? That shouldn't even exist in the first place. That's dumb. But again, we're talking about different levels of companies. Yes, we've got companies that they're not there anymore, but we still, 80% of the industry, they are there. And as an industry, not here now as a big company or a small company, as an industry, we gotta work together. You can't be the smartest person in the room. You gotta be the dumbest person in the room. Your people gotta be smarter than you. And seriously, and that goes the conversation from the top of the company down. It's how you guys talk to the guys that will make that change, not just the piece of technology. Piece of technology is exactly what we did here for the truck. When you gave a truck, first of all, that was automatic to your driver, he used to drive, manual gear. What did they say for the first time, first week? God, if I can trust these. Am I right? And guys, I'm saying this because I'm a logistic guy in tech. Yeah, I load containers, I unload containers. Yeah, I control warehouses. I had 150 people working in 8 warehouses in Sydney. I'm talking about Grace, Allied, Santa Fe. All these guys were my customers. I was managing quarantine, customs, all of that for those guys. So when I decided to go in technology, do you know the reason?
Nope.
Some people think, oh, he's smart. No, I'm not smart. I was just tired to have an insurance of almost $20 million in liability because I was managing the warehouses. And then people are giving me papers to actually build an export container. And I want to send that 20 jobs to the UK from Australia and load much faster. But how could I do that if my forklift driver had to go on paper to see what was the last location of the job? That's the only reason why I built software. To help me to a point where in 2016, I was like, I'm not gonna manage warehouses anymore, I'm just gonna do software. Why? Because I believe that if I create enough data and quality data, companies will start making decisions much easier. And I have been producing data in the moving industry since 2010 when I got started.
Okay. So a question on the data front. So we've obviously specifically in the moving and relocation industry, but also in wider logistics, we've had some quite large data breaches. Some of them which have not been made very public, but they have happened on quite a large scale. So with new technologies, with AI and with other new technologies, and with large amounts of highly sensitive information changing hands, what precautions do movers, from the very small movers to the very large ones, what precautions do they need to be taking?
I think there is, maybe there are 3 steps here that we can all talk about very much. And the first one is, the flow of the information, it's not the problem, but who accesses the information is the problem, okay? 99.9% of all the breaches that we had, 99% of them were all because of mistake of someone. It wasn't because of the technology itself, okay? We had 1%. Of course, you're always going to have hackers out there trying to, blackmail people. That's a fact, okay? That's almost an industry on its own, okay? So we can't stop that, and we will never stop. But what you have to do is you have to have safeguards in place for your own employees and people who actually access your data that you're able to track. Okay? And yes, I am talking about if you allow your people to access information from your system on their laptop, ideally, you gotta have permissions set correctly in the software and the traceability of those access, because if you see a massive amount of access on that computer, on that user, from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m., and the person is at work at 8 a.m., there's something wrong. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. So we need to, that is the first aspect that you need to make sure. It's nothing to do even with the technology itself. It's your IT infrastructure. So you need to make sure that your devices are up to date. You need to make sure that people just won't access the internet on a cafe. If they, in a cafe, use their bloody phones. Because then the connection between the two devices is secure. But they go like, yeah, coffee shop, Wi-Fi free. Sometimes that's a scam. Mm-hmm. The second aspect is, so exchanging data, let's be very honest here, it's a very small amount of risk that you're going to get hacked just because there is transactional data coming and going. Okay? Let's be very honest here. You have a lot of commercial people talking that, oh no, you have to have this. But in the end of the day, it isn't. It isn't too dangerous. Where the danger is, comes almost back on step number 1. People receive this email with an attachment, and they've got no idea what that looks like, but they clicked anyways. Now what happened? People will have access within your network, and within your network, of course, every single computer in that network, now it's at risk. Mm-hmm. But third, the most important, I think, you gotta have policies in place, guys. We are not in the business anymore to do based on feeling. Procedures. How many of you have ISO 9001 in your businesses? Do you understand? That's where the problem is. When we are in a room and more than half will put their hands up, a probability of getting hacked is much smaller, because we've got a lot of procedures in place that if it does happen, it can happen, you're going to be able to treat that correctly. And lastly, it's not even a step. A lot of the software providers that you guys have within your stack of softwares, they got to be real. Stop taking, a new vendor into your business just because of price. It can't be only about price. It has to be about continuity of that person, because through that person, you can't forget that they will have access on your data. And if they don't have the correct way to handle the information, then again, you can be doing everything perfect, Anthony. If they're not, you actually gonna be paying the price. So we gotta be able to actually have all these steps. And to me, those procedures will be able to help. And your software provider will be able to help with the technology itself. But hacking, and I'm talking about one of my customers is Maersk. In 31 countries, I service Maersk. You guys have got no idea that out of when we're going through the contract, how many meetings we had only with the cybersecurity team. Forget about the software itself, just how we're going to handle the whole thing, how the procedure when, if it happens, they get hacked again. And you guys remember what happened in 2017, right? They lost control of their vessels. Not just the containers, the vessels. And you know why? Because a vendor clicked in one of those emails that he received, and he was an accounting guy working in Copenhagen in their office within their network. Do you understand now why when you go to certain companies they have guest network and their own network? That's the reason why. Companies start splitting the access that people that have access in the internet network, it's not on the main network where all the other computers are. That's one of the reasons. But I had a boss who said the only way for you to be 100% secure is taking the computer off the power. Which there is no option today for us.
Yeah.
Because we've got to be digital.
Yeah. Carlos, thank you. You're giving away some applications for free. Is that
So
correct?
as of FIDI 2024, Shipeezi is launching Shipeezi Community. What does that mean? Exactly what you said. It's an entire software that was built by us, used by the majority of the big companies already using us. Now we're going to give that for free for the industry. And the reason that I made that decision is it's enough talk about standardization without having digitalization. We can't keep talking. We can't keep spending our time and money on that. Yes, the big companies, they will have enough time to talk about that. Let them do that, and we are part of it, by the way. We support every single initiative on the standardization. We support, and we actually are on the standards of ISO, and we work together with IAM and everybody else who will come next. No issues on that. But what was the thing you said that is one of the barriers? Cost. I have to have my mouth to say what I'm saying, but I gotta actually get it done. And to be very honest, I don't know about you guys, but as I said, I'm a logistic guy in tech, and I had enough of people talking a lot and not doing enough. So I am doing it. I'm giving it for free. What does that mean? Yes, people will be able to digitalize themselves. They'll be able to send jobs to each other. They'll be able to do inventories with each other. And they want to do whatever they want to do. We getting on the Shipeezi community now, plugins. So you can use and do the basic and be digital, yeah? No one will complain about that. Then the next step is, do you want to have tracking of your shipping containers? You can have a plugin. Do you want to have credit card facility in there? Do you want to have all the documentations of the shipment? Do you want artificial intelligence, which we created, all the customs documentation from FIDI? You ask the bot and say, can you tell me what documents this move has to be filled? Because the guy is a diplomatic going from the US to Singapore. Check. Meaning, the core of the digitalization is now getting people in there. Oh, Carlos, but I already built a software. I already have a software. Great. Integrate. So now, we've got customers, for example, they've got 350 agents around. All of the agents will be making deliveries with the same app. That's how you digitalize the industry. I talk a lot, don't I? Well, let's get it done. Let's start doing stuff. rather than actually just talking. People talk a lot, but a lot of the people talking, they don't actually get anything done because it's all that superficial, ideal, you know, oh yeah, we should, but they don't get it done. So I made a decision to keep talking, but actually getting stuff done. And I'm taking from my pocket and then give it to the industry.
Lovely. Okay, thank you. So this presumably, Carlos, is part of moving the industry towards a threshold which you've told me before is 80% digitalisation, which you think is the threshold for. That's when we can really talk about standardisation.
Yeah.
How long do you think it's going to take for us as an industry to get there?
17 years ago, I went to Sydney from Brazil. So I'm not pure Australian, yeah? By my accent, you probably noticed that already. I am Brazilian. So when I went to Australia, I was washing cars and I had zero English. In 17 years, I learned the language, I built the company. In 2019, I got a Young Entrepreneur of the Year in Australia. Why I'm saying that? I'm ambitious and I take risks. I think in 24 months, we can actually have 80% of all the companies digitalized. Cost won't be an issue anymore. If everybody in the industry talks the same language, the employees will have no option because anywhere they go, any conference they go, anybody they call, any agent they call, everybody will talk the same.
We've done nearly 80% of our business in less than 12 months.
Here we go.
But it comes from a cultural thing.
Exactly.
You talked about the drivers, the stupid drivers, I think was the expression.
Some people, yeah, some of our customers, I'm like,
But actually, who are you consulting with when you have those conversations? What you're saying at the top of the business is you're going to speak to their managers and who will have an opinion on their behalf. And we had the same thing with our job apps with the guys in their 50s and 60s who we said, oh, there's no chance they'll ever adopt it. They took it on and because of the benefits to them, they could see what their job was for the week. They can start planning their trips. They can let their families know what they're doing that week. And the embrace of change has actually been quite dramatic for us. And although there's quite a big capital outlay on the front end of it, we're already seeing quite a significant saving across the business.
Daniel.
And I'll add to it one more thing. Everybody's referred to like AI as being this thing that's going to replace all the things that actually then that can push their roles into different things. So as an example, our IT guy who spent so much time on collation of data, etc. Now we're putting him on an ethical hacking course. So he's reutilizing his time doing something more constructive, which protects the business whilst copying PDFs and digitalizing data. It's done on an automated basis.
Once every 12 months, I actually hire hackers to try to break Shipeezi. You know why? That costs me less money than I get hacked, and Merce comes back to me and says, hey, by the way, that line of the contract, so and that's, you're 100, Daniel, that's exactly it. That is exactly what I'm talking about. You gotta get started. And if cost was one of the barriers, cost is not the barrier anymore, right? Oh, I'll give you another thing. You said, oh, my drivers, 40, 50s and all that kind of thing. So when we went to China, I had a guy, super smart in IT, or at least he thought he was. He asked me all these, seriously, 26 questions. And the one that he thought he was going to get me was, very good, Carlos, you 25 of those questions, you showed me what I was asking. Thank you very much for that. But still, we won't be able to use it because some of our guys here in China, they don't speak English. So it's very hard. Say, yeah, I agree. So that's why you click here and it changes the language. And so now they can do in their own language, but it pulls back into the system in English because that's the international standard. He signed on the spot. And that's not because I am smart. That's because I listened to those guys. I was one of them. I was an international student in Australia, loading and unloading containers, myself, driving trucks. I understand the transshipment feature, for example, I built. People think like, oh, that's super cool. No, that's fantastic. It's not cool. Cool is something that we see around there. I built something that I wanted my guys to be able to load and unload containers as fast as possible. You know why? Because my money was made in cubic meters. As many cubic meters as could move, I would make more money. So I make as fast and simple as I could. And yes, of course I am very proud of, but at the end of the day, I'm not a moving company. And if people can't perceive that, well then I haven't been successful, have I? So that's why the conversation needs to exist at all levels, not just the big companies. Any level, any company should be involved in that conversation.
Lovely. Daniel, thank you for that. So, Carlos, I've written down 24 months, 80% digitalisation, and I will come back to you from the magazine.
I think in Japan, I better be really, really good on that number.
So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to close the session now. Before I do, does anyone have any questions for Carlos? We have about -1 minute.
I'll share a very quick story from the AMJ. On the domestic side of our business, years ago, we had an opportunity, some kind of subscription with IBM Watson. So that was the big supercomputer, whatever. I guess they put a bunch of data into it. We had all the data, but we didn't have the people who could look at the data. And what it spat out, and it was hilarious, we thought our busiest, on the domestic side, we thought our busiest day of every week was Friday. Always busy on Friday. Maybe we didn't have as many people working on Friday, I don't know. But as it turns out, no, Monday was the busiest time for us. And within 3 weeks, we implemented like a airline type of pricing. Madam, if you'd like to move on Wednesday, it's X number of dollars per hour. If you'd like to move on Monday, it's a little bit higher, and on Friday, and we were able, many people, they'll change their date if it's a little bit less. So I think one of the issues is we've got all this data, we're movers. We need some brains in the organization, fresh brains, to say, do you know what this means? And so when you talk about AI, I think that's the
thing.
That's the intelligence. The artificial is the stuff that's gone into the system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Danielle, you're 100% right. And that's one of the reasons that we, again, going back to that, we decided to break that barrier of cost. Because from our point of view, from my point of view, I want to have all the tech companies together. I don't care who you're going to use. If you don't like me, you don't want to use me, fine. But I want to still have a whiskey with you. That's the point here. And if all the vendors are in the same room, and we are the ones making the decision of standardization, because we are the ones paying the bill, guess who is going to benefit from? You. You are going to benefit. So that's exactly where the point is. So to me, I almost want to become an ecosystem. But, and now comes that big but, when an Amazon comes in, when an Oracle wants to come in, when any of these guys want to come in, we are going to say, as long as you go through these 100 points of the FIDI audit for tech supplier, then yes, we will welcome you. And then you guys will have the chance to pick the one that you like the most. Hopefully you guys will pick the guy who drinks whiskey, but that's exactly where we should be. So this conversation about suppliers here, suppliers there, and I talk to all of them, and Amir is here, he works with me, and we have exactly that point of view. We want to talk to everybody, we want to bring everybody together, because if the industry has the benefit of that, we're gonna make our money. That's how we make money, we don't make moves. Or do you guys want us to create a system where the final user goes in and, does the code with us, and then we go now to the movie industry and say, hey, by the way, that's my rates for you guys, and if you want to do this, I've got 400,000 jobs per year, so if you want to do it, you gotta go on my rate. Does that sound familiar? No, you don't want anybody coming and doing that. You don't want another, company coming very safely from home to do that. You want to make 100% sure that you continue your business doing that, and then us, the suppliers, should be actually listening to you, Danielle, and say, hey, we can do that. Oh, that guy can do that. Great. Which one you prefer? Oh, you. Okay, great. But then it comes here. This company who's going to do that to Danielle, we can go back to the industry and say, hey, by the way, I've done this with Danielle, and look, maybe all of you guys can use. Because people are not using Danielle just because she created that. They're using Danielle for all the reasons that she has in the business. So in my opinion, that's how we're going to digitalize. We break this idea that you're doing so well. If the industry is not doing well, we are not doing well. It can't be individual. It has to be as an industry. I don't want to be part of that. That's it.
Lovely. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for that story and that comment, Danielle. And I'm going to close the session now. So can we just say thank you very much to Carlos Ferri from Shipeezi.